Imagine a world where Steve Jobs never existed and Apple was just a fruit. We're going back to the 70s, an era of bell-bottoms, disco, and computers that resembled oversized bread boxes more than the sleek devices we know today. We're talking about a time when personal computers were a far-off dream, and the tech scene was a jumble of blinking lights, punch cards, and keyboards that felt like they were designed for giant fingers. Now, let's picture this world without Steve Jobs, without his visionary spark that ignited the personal computer revolution. Without Jobs and Apple, we might have been stuck with those bulky beige behemoths for much longer. A world where the concept of a personal computer, a device that is now an extension of ourselves, might have been delayed for years. Of course, we can't ignore the other players on the field. IBM was a major force in the 70s and 80s, and there's always the possibility they could have taken the lead. And what about Microsoft? Without Apple to contend with, perhaps Bill Gates would have been the one to bring personal computers to the masses. But here's the thing. The rivalry between Jobs and Gates, Apple and Microsoft, was a driving force in the development of the tech industry. This competition fueled innovation, pushing both companies to create better, more user-friendly products. Without that rivalry, who knows what kind of uninspired computers we'd be stuck with today? This is the world without Steve Jobs, without Apple. A world full of what-ifs and maybes. A world where technology took a different path, where the devices we rely on today might look and function completely differently. It's a fascinating thought experiment, and one that underscores just how influential Steve Jobs and Apple have been in shaping the world as we know it. Fast forward to the 2000s. Picture those brick phones that took an eternity to send a text, the ones that weighed as much as a small child and had antennas that could probably pick up signals from Mars. Without the influence of Apple's iPhone, those monstrous mobiles could have ruled the roost for longer than they did. The iPhone was a game changer, a paradigm shift. It wasn't just a phone, it was a status symbol, a fashion statement, a mini computer in your pocket. It introduced a sleek, intuitive touchscreen that made everything from sending emails to watching videos as easy as a swipe of a finger. But let's ponder for a moment. What if that never happened? What if we never had the iPhone with its elegant design and user-friendly interface? We'd probably still be stuck with phones that had physical keyboards and complicated menu systems. Remember T9 texting? That could have been our reality. Yikes! Sure. There were other players in the mobile tech industry. BlackBerry, for instance, was making some headway with their QWERTY keyboards and push email services. But without the iPhone setting the bar high, would they have pushed themselves to innovate and improve? Or would they have been content to sit on their laurels, leaving us with phones that felt more like calculators than communication devices? And it's not just about the hardware. The iPhone also heralded the rise of the App Store, ushering in a new era of mobile apps that have since become an integral part of our daily lives. Without the iPhone, we might not have seen such a surge in mobile app development, impacting everything from social networking to mobile gaming. So, without the iPhone revolution, we might be stuck with complicated menus and physical keyboards. Yikes. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? The iPhone didn't just change the way we use phones, it changed the way we live. And that, my friends, is the pocket apocalypse. But the impact doesn't stop there. Apple's influence reaches far beyond its products. Just think about it. Apple's signature style, its focus on design aesthetics and user-friendly interfaces, has had a profound effect on the tech industry as a whole. In a world without Apple, we might be looking at a very different tech landscape. Imagine music players that are a migraine to navigate, TVs with interfaces that look like they were designed by a 5-year-old, and computers that require a PhD in computer science just to boot up. The sleek, intuitive designs that we take for granted today might not have become the industry standard. Apple's design philosophy has always been about simplicity and elegance. It's about making technology accessible and enjoyable to use, rather than a chore. It's about creating an experience, not just a product. This ethos has permeated the entire tech industry. Without Apple's influence, we might be living in a world where functionality trumps form, where user experience takes a back seat to technical specifications. The focus may not have shifted from what a device can do to how it can do it in the most efficient and enjoyable way possible. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. The absence of Apple doesn't necessarily mean we'd be stuck in the tech dark ages. Other companies might have stepped up to fill the void. Perhaps we'd see a greater variety of design philosophies, leading to a more diverse tech ecosystem. But at the same time, we can't ignore the fact that Apple has been a major driving force in shaping the tech industry. It's pushed the boundaries of what's possible, challenged the status quo, and set new standards for design and user experience. So yes, a world without Apple might be a wild, unpredictable place, full of potential for variety and innovation. But there's no denying Apple's role in pushing the entire industry towards a more streamlined and user-friendly future. So, would a world without Apple be all doom and gloom? Not necessarily, but it certainly would be a different landscape, to say the least. In this alternate reality, the pace of progress in personal computing might have been more of a leisurely stroll than the sprint we've experienced. Those clunky beige computers could have been our companions for a while longer, with the sleek, user-friendly interfaces we've come to know and love being but a distant dream. The mobile landscape? Oh, that's a whole different ballgame. Without the iPhone's revolutionary design, we might still be wrestling with brick phones, struggling to send a text on a physical keyboard. The touchscreen could have remained a feature of fancy sci-fi movies rather than a staple of our daily lives. And let's not forget about the wider tech industry. Without Apple's emphasis on sleek design and intuitive user experience, the industry standards we take for granted today might have been vastly different. The ripple effects of Apple's influence would be missing, leaving us with a tech world that's harder to navigate and less pleasing to the eye. But it's not all bleak. The absence of Apple's dominance could have paved the way for other players to step up, fostering a more diverse and potentially innovative tech landscape. Who knows what exciting developments could have emerged from this alternate scenario? The truth is, we can't ignore the massive footprint Steve Jobs and Apple have left on our world. They've shaped the way we interact with technology, redefining our expectations and setting new standards. They've pushed the boundaries, challenged the status quo, and in doing so, they've forever changed the game. So, what do you think? How would the tech landscape look without the influence of Steve Jobs and Apple? Would it be a dystopia, or could it open doors to a world of new possibilities? Let me know in the comments below what you think the tech world would look like without Steve Jobs and Apple. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, and share the video.